52 weeks of encouragement. Woo! We took like 2 weeks off, but we're gonna make them up to you, all right? So get ready in the next couple weeks.
Yep. Hope you guys are having a good start to summer.
Yeah.
And today's verse is in 1 Corinthians 10, verse 4, and it says, speaking about when the Israelites were in the desert, wandering around, for they drank from the spiritual rock that accompanied them, and that rock was Christ. So what was happening here?
Well, you got this rock, and I think the title of today's little encouraging word is that be encouraged that God can use inanimate objects to reveal His presence.
He can use a rock.
He can use a lame rock. Here we are, it's Israel, they're walking through the desert, they're thirsty, and they're looking for the Lord's presence, and they did have, like God was with them, they had seen signs and stuff, but God decides to reveal His presence through a rock. He bursts water out of it. Now Israel
in the
can
desert,
drink
so
water.
water is what they need.
Yeah. And I don't know, reading that, God using inanimate objects to reveal His presence. I used to have this really old car. It was over 10 years ago. You know, college kid, like $50 in my checking account, and this car would break on me every other month, and it would cost like at least a couple $100. So it really hurt, put it on a credit card. And so I remember when I was in college in Florida, I came to the day where it was time to move home, and I was gonna have to drive this thing like 2,500 miles home. And I remember just like praying and begging to God. I'm like, God, don't let it break while I'm driving it home, because if it does, like I'm sunk. Like if it does, I'll have to leave it on the side of the road or figure it out. So I drive all the way across. We're just like keeping our fingers crossed, or just don't let it break. And I literally roll in to the driveway of my house after a 2,500 mile drive, and the engine just goes boom, something explodes, and it was like a $900 casualty on my engine. Something broke, but God held it together just until I literally drove into the front. And I was just like, dude, God is so present. He for me, His presence wasn't like a big, glorious angel cloud with lightning and stuff. It was just an inanimate object, and I was able to identify that. So, I don't know, how can we be encouraged by
Well, I feel like when we realize that every blessing comes from God, like every blessing ever, it comes from Him alone. And so when there's a blessing in our life, I think it becomes a great practice when instead of just taking it for what it is and moving on, but tracing that blessing back to the giver who gave it to you.
That's good.
And I think that's what God's doing. He's blessing us. He wants to bless us. And so when we, instead of just taking it and not thinking anything of it, but when we actually ponder, wow, where did this come from? How did it get here? And then trace it back to God's hand. I think that is what's going to set our hearts on track for where He wants us. Yeah.
Encouraged that God can use inanimate objects like a rock to reveal His presence. We'll see you next time.